There is no place for me.
I'm sorry, when did we get into an Arielle Scarcella video? Lesbian feminist explains how the Equality Act promotes inequality. That's great. Remember the Equality Act, everyone? The thing that would have given like broad protections for LGBT and trans people? That would have been cool. But apparently it would have promoted inequality, says the totally reputable Heritage Foundation. By the way, for people who don't know, the Heritage Foundation is basically like, they're just a giant conservative think tank. Like, they regularly promote like anti-LGBT, racist propaganda. Like, they're just like a pretty generic conservative think tank, you know, like what do you want? But yeah, so when you say lesbian feminist explains something, understand that this is coming from a conservative mindset, and like conservatives do not like feminism because feminism kind of acknowledges that like there are structures in society which disparately like harm certain people compared to others. For feminists, it's like women compared to men. And, like, conservatives don't like that because they don't like the idea that, like, there are certain people who have certain barriers or, like, have certain hardships which other people do not face. Like, it goes in the face of their ideology. So, like, the reason why they're calling this person is probably, and we're going to make a guess here, what they've promoted as someone who's called a TERF. Trans exclusionary radical feminist. Pretty likely. We're going to, maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe I'll be wrong. But yeah, the reason why TERFs are actually pretty consistent with like conservative like ideology is because TERFs tend to maintain very similar beliefs about like gender and hierarchy as a lot of conservatives do. They maintain that like there's an intrinsic quality of what it means to be a gender, that it's intrinsically tied to biological sex, and that's pretty consistent with a lot of like conservative ideologies, and so they end up going pretty hand in hand. The person who's talking is probably going to be like, broadly speaking, pretty conservative. So that's the disclaimer. Let's get into it.
I live in Baltimore City.
Oh god. She lives in Baltimore. Oh no, she lives in the same city as me. Fuck.
And I am a lesbian.
This is identity politics, right? Identity politics broadly meaning that like saying that your arguments are justified by virtue of some aspect of your identity. It's really funny because like conservatives will constantly criticize the left as if the left like makes appeals like this all the time. Oh, I must be right on this because I'm trans. They're literally using the fact that this person is a lesbian as if to make this representative and give it validity that it otherwise would not have, and it otherwise does not have. Conservatives against idpol until they're not, right? I mean, like, this is basically the same as my one black friend said. As it turns out, lesbians can be conservative, and often they're TERFs. Crazy how that happens.
I ask myself the same thing. But my answer is pretty simple. There is no place for me.
I'm sorry, when did we get into an Arielle Scarcella video? There is no place for me, a cis lesbian woman, in the radical trans ideology left anymore. Essentially what's going to happen, I'm going to make a hard prediction here because this is, I've seen so many videos, like, basically with this format. She's going to present herself as if, like, oh, I used to be left. I used to be progressive. I used to even be like, consider myself a leftist. Then the left got crazy. They started talking about these trans people and they started trying to shove gender ideology into my sexuality. And they told me that I couldn't be, that I had to be attracted to someone with a penis, even though literally no one ever says that. And she's going to like make a bunch of strawmans about how crazy the left is. And she's going to use it as justification. So I left the radical progressive left. Like that's basically what I'm expecting right now.
Politically homeless. So believe me when I say I am grateful for the opportunity to share my story. Thank you to the organizers, to my
also, she is, notice how she's posturing herself as the victim here.
Fellow panelists, and everyone here for making this happen. My story is as unbelievable and absurd as it is commonplace. I got kicked off of the Baltimore Mayor's LGBTQ commission as the only lesbian, simply for stating biological facts.
Biological facts. All right, well, hey, you know what? I've done some research on some biological facts myself. I've done some good, hard research, and this will be available for anyone who wants it. Let's hear some biological facts. Let's, please, Socratize me, mommy.
After a months-long witch hunt, I was found guilty of violence. My crime? Using male pronouns to talk about a convicted male rapist who identifies as transgender and prefers female pronouns.
What was my crime? I aggressively misgendered a trans woman, but I just did so because I was pointing out basic biological facts, and it was someone who did something bad. Because, you know, if you do a bad thing in life, well, that means that you lose the woman card, because in order to be a woman, it means that you have to be a good little girl, and if you're not, then you lose the woman card. Oh my fucking god, basic biology. Let's talk about this, right? This argument has come up a couple times tonight. Just to be absolutely fucking clear. Whereas even conceding that gender and sex are different, this person isn't. Some people will actively refer to trans women as biologically male, trans men as biologically female, non-binary person as a biological sex, right? It's exactly what this person is doing. Whereas taking a scientific realist approach, a scientific model has no inherent value, but rather is as valuable as it can produce objectively reasonable, accurate, and consistent outcomes. Let me ask you all, where does the validity for a scientific model come from? We talked about this earlier in stream. If you're watching in the future on YouTube, we talked about this in the previous video with Ben Shapiro. Go and watch that. But where does the validity for a scientific model come from? Using a scientific realist approach, where the validity comes from is like the ability for a scientific model to produce objectively reasonable, consistent, and reliable outcomes. So when we classify someone as a biological male or a biological female, understand that we are using, like, that categorization is a consequence of using a binary model of biological sex. So let's talk about binary classifications of biological sex, right? Whereas binary variables refer to variables that are dichotomous, where each data point can only contain one of two possible variables. Like in binary code, you can have a 1 or a 0. You can't have anything else in that. You can't have a value that's like a 0, 1 or a 1, 0. You can't have a value that's a 2, a 3, or 4. You can only have a 0 and a 1. And that's it, meaning using chromosomes, genitalia, or gamete production at minimum each entail non-binary models for sex because we have observed non-binary examples of each. No matter how you classify biological sex, it always, in every way that we try to do it, it always, always, always comes out as non-binary. And the reason why this is relevant is because a lot of the scientific community is starting to recognize this and move towards other ways of classifying sex. Whereas it is the growing consensus that sex characteristics tend to be bimodal, meaning there are clusters of characteristics that tend to be associated with what people call female or male, and molecular biology has established that sex is on a continuum with enormous potential for variance. A lot of the current scientific consensus is that sex is on a spectrum. Again, this is the same issue as with Ben Shapiro. I really want you to consider, if someone is going to sit here and be like, oh, I'm just espouting basic biological facts, oh, I'm just espouting basic biology, do you think that they actually care about being scientifically accurate, considering that they are either at minimum misinformed on the subject or at maximum just blatantly wrong? Do you think that they care about just the honest pursuit of truth, or do you think that they're just bigoted against trans people? I'll let you decide.
It doesn't matter that he sexually assaulted 2 women in a women's prison after being transferred there on account of his gender identity.
Okay, hold on. I have to deal with every single argument tonight. All right, how much evidence do I have on this? Oh, wow, a lot. Strap in, everyone. This is going to be a long discussion. So basically, she's like trying to use like evidence of like a quote unquote trans predator to say that like some people will abuse like self-identification systems as a means to be able to harass women, right? This is not an old argument. This is pretty rehashed over and over, time and time again. So let's talk about it. According to Just Detention International, in most cases, correction agencies make gender classifications based on genitalia and not a person's gender identity. As such, transgender women are held in men's facilities and called he. Transgender men are held in women's facilities and called she. Broadly speaking, that's how most of it happens in the US. So yeah, this person may have been like assigned into a woman's prison. They're in the minority. And in many cases, the gender identity of transgender inmates is simply ignored, and they are denied gender-appropriate clothing and hygiene products. Because transgender women are typically housed in men's facilities, they often have to shower and change their clothes in front of male inmates and staff. Once targeted for abuse, the majority of transgender survivors are subjected to repeated sexual assaults. Furthermore, in many facilities, officials have a standing policy to house transgender inmates in solitary confinement, either as soon as they enter a facility or after they have been sexually assaulted. Sometimes officials have to make such housing decisions in an attempt to protect transgender people. Other times, the isolation itself is used as a form of abuse. Regardless of the intent, solitary confinement causes significant emotional distress. Inmates who are locked down in a tiny cell for 23 hours a day are cut off from vital services programs. Not surprisingly, many transgender rape survivors suffer in silence, afraid that speaking out will result in isolation. Additionally, according to a report published by the Sylvia Rivera Law Project on transgender and intersex people in New York State men's prisons, transgender women, gender nonconforming people, and intersex people are frequently and visible targets for discrimination and violence and are subjected to daily refusals by correctional officers and prisoners to recognize their gender identity. Two of the main types of housing in which prisoners may be placed are general population and protective custody. Protective custody units are reserved for people who are at higher risk of violence or harassment by other prisoners, those who are receiving additional punishment, or those who are seen as more likely to commit violent acts towards others. So, not only are trans people disproportionately likely to be subjected to violence either by the institution or by other people who are in the prisons, who are in, like trans women who are in male prisons, but also, even if they're like a trans predator, they're still likely going to be put into solitary confinement because they are people who are predisposed or who have committed sexual assaults or crimes. Prisons have a way of dealing with those sorts of people, right? This is not surprising. Also, this is just a rehashed argument from like gay people and other minorities over the course of like fucking forever, right? I mean, like, name any minority. I mean, I did a video on this when I was talking about Rose of Dawn's previous video on like Barbie Kardashian, and we brought up a story about how literally this same exact logic was being used against a gay cis man who had raped a bunch of people, and lo and behold, it turns out that like protesters against gay people came out and said, oh, well, this person shouldn't have been put in prison at all, and now we should be harsher on gay people. There's more evidence here. There's like a lot of evidence supporting like everything I just said. You're free to go through it. This is actually like already publicly available. There it is. It's in my Discord. Go nuts. Let's go on.
Oh no, it is far more criminal for me to call a male rapist he than it is for him to rape.
You better hope that you never do anything wrong in life, because apparently if you do, you lose the woman card.
The man who led my inquisition also identifies as transgender.
Transgender. Okay, then.
He is the president of the Baltimore Transgender Alliance.
When someone like goes so far out of their way, like literally, it's so easy. Just say transgender. Like, just say it. Just say transgender. It's not a hard thing. You don't have to be like transgender, as if there's like something like inherently like facetious or malicious about the nature of the word itself. That doesn't indicate any degree of trustworthiness. It just indicates that you just fucking hate trans people.
Claims to be a lesbian. He is the president of the Baltimore Transgender Alliance and claims to be a lesbian.
What she's doing here, what this person is doing here is essential, is saying that like by virtue of the fact that that Ava replaced her, who she does not see as a woman, but who's a trans lesbian, which is a thing. Hi, I'm trans-les. How are all of you? Hi, trans-les, I'm dead. Fucking shut up. Get out of my room, Dad. She's upset because she doesn't see, so like she's a TERF, right? Like that's essential, like this is the proof that she's a TERF, right? Because she does not see Ava as a woman, and therefore she cannot, like in her mind, qualify as a lesbian. And so that's where this whole statement is coming from, right?
I find that almost funny, because everything he does makes life for women, girls, and lesbians worse.
Just the aggressive misgendering. Holy shit, this person really fucking hates trans people. Like, it's such a it's such a disingenuous representation that, like, it's almost a caricature.
His organization, the BTA, sponsored a public event where lesbians would be, quote, hung by their necks, end quote.
Wait, hold on. Is there any explanation for that? Lesbians would be hung by their necks. Where is that? Where's the citation of that? Where's the citation? I really want to look this up. The only thing I'm able to find for this so far, we're doing investigation. Listen, we're going down, we're investigating this, all right?
Later.
So it's not actually that lesbian. No, this is just dishonest. This is still just dishonest. It's basically like all this is just saying, yeah, TERFs, you aren't fucking allowed here. Get the fuck out, TERFs. Like, no one's actually going to fucking hang them by their necks. But yeah, TERFs aren't allowed at like a trans event. Yeah, that makes perfect fucking sense. This is so fucking dishonest. This is so dishonest. So basically, they're framing it like, oh yeah, no, yeah, if any woman attended, they would, yeah, this person said that they would be hung by their necks. When in fact it was literally just like, TERFs don't fucking come here. That's what it was. Like, this is so fucking dishonest. This is just blatant lying.
He advocates for commercial sex work, of which he has no experience as a white trust fund baby.
So we're dealing with a TERF and a SWERF, though they usually go hand in hand, so, I mean, okay.
I joined the LGBTQ Commission to give lesbians a voice in our local government.
I joined to give lesbians a voice is literally just translating to, I joined so that I can harass trans people. That's all that this is. That's all that this person is!
To advise the mayor on our underrepresented issues, reviewing proposals, speaking at town halls, and sharing very detailed notes with everyone on my committee. After a few meetings, I ran for a leadership position and I won. I was one of 2 co-chairs on the Law and Policy Committee.
Also, pause. What's this pin right here? Someone investigate what the pin is, because I feel like it's symbolic. Oh, it's a uterus. Oh yeah, because trans women can't be women because of her not correct conception of biological sex. Okay. How, like, I know that a lot of TERFs will make kind of like this weird general, like, why do trans people have to make everything about their identity? And then people go around literally wearing pins of their uteruses, like their actual genitalia, as pins of pride, as points of pride. Like, get fucking real.
That did not last long. After the BTA president accused me of transphobia, the mayor's liaison swiftly scheduled an emergency meeting to assess my fitness as a leader. The meeting went worse than you can imagine. I was not allowed to talk out of turn. One by one, members of my committee, representatives of the BTA, and 3 brave friends went around the table speaking their minds. One gay man at the meeting said, biological sex was a thing of the past. I looked at
the guy kind of has a point. The way that we can see biological sex is not the same like it used to. I'm sorry, that's the fact. And if you disagree with that, I'm sorry, you're just a science denier. I can't change that. That's what you are.
at him and asked, how can we be homosexual if sex is fake?
Also, side note, homosexuality was invented as a term way back in the day to be able to be an attack on gay people, just like a small aside, because people who are attacking the idea of people being gay try to essentialize gay identity down to just pure sexual attraction. But yeah, gay people, go on being gay. I am also the gay.
Gay man disagreed with the dictionary definition of woman as adult human female.
Oh my god, she actually made the argument. Well, the dictionary definition of what it means to be a woman is an adult human female. The dictionary is not usually a source of academic credibility or scientific credibility on what is current in scientific literature. Usually dictionaries are a source of how things are known or used colloquially, meaning in everyday language. But just to hone it home, here's basically what it means to be a gender, or what that current academic, the overwhelming academic literature defines as meaning a gender. Here are the citations, everything. So let's start with, whereas according to the World Health Organization, the American Psychological Association, the Canadian Institutes of Health Research, the United Kingdom's NHS, and researchers, gender refers to the socially constructed roles, behaviors, expressions, and identities of people that varies from society to society and can change over time, how society interacts with and categorizes individuals. That is what it means that gender is a social construct. So yeah, this isn't really an argument, and it's just kind of stupid TERF logic.
These men could not support their flimsy arguments.
No one can actually respond to these arguments. No one can substantiate these arguments. No one can actually uphold these arguments. And the thing is, most of the time, this is the same thing Ben Shapiro does, right? Is that Ben Shapiro isn't right most of the time, right? It's just that he's able to make sure that the times when he is captured on screen, that he's never actually being challenged by someone who's competent enough to be able to reliably challenge his ideas.
The next speaker, though, she broke my heart.
Aww. She's the real victim here. We should all be sympathetic towards this sad person.
She's
crying? Are you goddamn serious? Don't shed a fucking tear for this person. She's a lying fucking piece of shit.
survived a hysterectomy, shaking and complaining of hot flashes. She said she was not and had never been a woman.
I think she's talking about a trans guy. Again, it's hard because she doesn't actually clarify whether the person she's talking about is trans. So we have to do some digging with context. But I'm pretty sure the person she's talking about is a trans guy now.
She had just survived a hysterectomy.
She had just survived a hysterectomy. So if this is a trans guy, it's not that she had survived it. She just, the guy had a hysterectomy. Because that's pretty common for gender-affirming surgery.
Shaking and complaining of hot flashes. She said she was not and had never been a woman.
I knew it! I fucking knew it! Lost lesbian sister. My poor lost lesbian sister who survived a terrible, terrible hysterectomy, which she won't say that he actually voluntarily went into to deal with his dysphoria and to be able to, affirm his gender. It's a fucking lost lesbian sister bit! Fuck this person. Fuck her. This is so fucking dishonest. This is so dishonest.
It doesn't make me any less of a man that I have a vulva. It's there, and it's masculine, and it's a male, and it's a man, end quote.
Fucking true. King. Love him.
As she said this, my accuser snapped his fingers as if we were at a poetry reading. It was so fake and performative. He didn't care at all for what—
So fake and performative? You're being so fake and performative, pretending that you care about this right now. What the fuck is up with this fake crying bullshit? Are you goddamn serious?
What she had endured in the name of gender identity.
In the name of gender identity. This is the gender ideology take right here.
As it definitely is to my sexuality. But their decision was made long before
This is so important to my sexuality. This is literally the Arielle Scarcella take, right? Listen, I think that we're just getting a little crazy with trans ideology. I really want to be able to fuck lesbians who I think are attractive, but now gender ideology is telling them they have to turn into men and they're getting hysterectomies. It makes me so sad because now I'm not able to fuck them anymore. I just want to fuck them. I just want to fuck the trans men. So fake and performative. That's what this is.
That night, and I was voted out. The meeting made one thing crystal clear. Inclusivity means all voices are welcome, except women's.
I'm sorry, people. This is just beyond parody.
It's unfortunate that so many people are truly confused about gender and sex, so I'd like—
Like you! Oh! Yeah, literally, the only person in this conversation who's confused about gender and sex is you.
like to break it down right now. There are only 3 sexualities: homosexual, heterosexual, bisexual, all the hip new identities in the alphabet soup, like non-binary.
Oh, well then. Ah, yes, my favorite sexuality. Non-binary. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's pretty easy for everyone to recognize that. That's pretty fucking full of shit.
Gender fluid, pansexual are not actually sexualities. Neither is transgender.
An argument is an opinion plus evidence. It's very clear what her opinion is, but she has yet to provide a single goddamn shred of evidence.
Everything is about the T now, entirely eclipsed.
Yeah, this is just TERF talking points. This is just all TERF rhetoric. Everything is about the T now. Trans people are right now subjected to a lot of discrimination in society by people like you. Crazy how that is.
The L, G, and B. The T is diametrically opposed to the first 3 letters in the acronym, and
oh god. Oh god.
Especially to the L.
Especially to the L. Again, without evidence.
Sexualities are based on sex, but gender identities are based on stereotypes. Nothing to do with same-sex attraction. In fact, they undermine and erase homosexuals. People are not—
Feel sad. Honestly, I don't even care. Fucking feel sad. Yeah, trans people don't erase what it means to be a lesbian. That's just, it's just a straw man.
Not attracted to genders. Yet every lesbian I know has been pressured to accept males into our dating pools and dwindling spaces.
Yeah, it's just a straw man. If you don't want to date a trans woman, then congratulations. You don't have to. People have their dating preferences. Just don't be a bigot.
In order to validate their gender identity, men who call themselves trans women try to break the, quote, cotton ceiling, which refers to lesbians' underwear.
What? What the fuck is this? I swear I'd never heard of this fucking before in my life. So logical fallacies, lack of foundation, speculation. Like there's no evidence to be able to point to for this. No, like this is entirely speculative because it goes to the mindsets of people who are trans. And also just from my own fucking experience, and I don't know about you all, but like when I transitioned, I wasn't exactly like doing so trying to get into cis women's underwear. In fact, this kind of sucks, and I'm about to be real with y'all. Ever since transition, it's been really fucking hard to date because now I'm always worried about running into someone like this in the dating pool.
The completely illogical statement that trans women are women is recited like
Completely illogical statement. That's also like backed by the overwhelming academic consensus. Okay.
a big brother mantra in every leftist space.
Oh, now we're attacking leftism. Now we're bringing politics into this. You damn well could expect that. This is a Heritage Foundation event, right?
Doing so will jeopardize your career, your community, and your life.
If you go out and just call one trans woman a man, well, everyone is going to think that you're a bigot. By the way, can we just talk about the fact, again, literally this woman joined an LGBT organization, one focused on fostering inclusive spaces with the explicit intention of trying to exclude trans people. How fucking of a shit person do you have to be to literally go into an organization with the explicit intention of trying to make it worse for people it's explicitly trying to help? Like, how fucking of a piece of shit do you have to be to go in with that kind of mentality? I can't think of someone so sick and twisted that they literally just want to, like, take a space which is inclusive of people who are like vastly treated very poorly in society and make even that space antagonistic towards them. It's beyond parody.
Sex and gender are not the same. People like to be polite and say gender instead
Yeah, sex and gender are not the same. Amazing.
of sex, and often use the terms interchangeably as if they were synonyms. But they mean different things, and we must not conflate them.
Amazingly, I agree here. That seems to be contradictory to everything that you said so far. So why are you constantly misgendering like every trans person that you're referencing?
Sex is a biological reality. It's
Sex is way, way more complicated than you clearly know what it is.
not a dirty word. It refers to the two reproductive classes in our species. Even people with disorders of sexual development, commonly called intersex conditions, are either one sex or the other.
No. Hold on. So literally she's saying, yeah, if you're intersex, as in if you don't belong to like one of two binary sex categories, depending on the model that you're using, then you're still a biological sex, which is true. But that also proves that like sex is not binary. But I don't think that's what she's saying.
Deny this fact means we are unable to name, address, and fix systemic sex-based oppression and exploitation.
Trans people exist, so we can't resolve women's oppression. Yeah, because I'm not allowed to discriminate against trans women, we won't be able to resolve feminist women's oppression because reasons ?
Many well-intentioned people think that this concept of gender identity is the next frontier of social justice. But in
I mean, like, it's definitely up there. I don't know. I mean, like, with the amount of people like you going around and literally forming organizations dedicated to like shitting on trans people and literally invading like LGBT organizations with the explicit intention of taking like a trans-friendly space and making it antagonistic towards trans people. Yeah, I mean, like, for as long as there are people like you, this will be relevant because you're kind of a piece of shit. And there's a lot of people who are like you, who are pieces of shit.
in reality, it is regressive, based on rigid sex roles that legitimize male dominance and female subordination. The idea of a female or male brain only justifies treating women as subhuman. Gender cements sexist stereotypes. Women like me, who don't wear makeup or high heels, do not conform to gendered expectations of femininity. And that's okay.
Oh, hey, like me. Hi. You see, I mean, like, there's like a little foundation. Wearing like sneakers right now. I'm wearing something probably more masculine than she is right now.
Women don't need to wear makeup or high heels in order to be women. Our female sex is the one and only qualifier of womanhood.
But that's a straw man. Moving on.
Today, many young girls are told that they are born in the wrong body if they do not embrace femininity. It used to be that if you did not follow traditional gender roles, being the perfect pretty princess or mean macho boy, then conservatives would try to change your personality to match your body. But now it's worse. Liberals are trying to change your body to match your personality.
Also, no, that's not what it means to be trans.
As a lesbian, using a radical feminist analysis, I
Oh, radical feminist. Yeah, yep, she's TERF. Yeah, she TERF.
want to do away with both. I want all people to love themselves and live however they want in the bodies that they were born as.
TERF talking points. Yeah, so she just doesn't believe that trans people are who they say they are, which is categorically wrong and anti-scientific and just bigoted. So yeah, when she says that, like, oh, you can't even have a reasonable opinion about the trans question nowadays, I mean, she's literally using like the same kind of thing that like alt-right people or Nazis use, which is fitting because she's at like a far-right organization's presentation. So weird how that works out.
Girls who play with trucks and like the color blue, boys who play with dolls and like the color pink, children with autism, children who would likely grow up to be happy gay adults, are now being sterilized.
Oh wait, did she bring in autism?
Sex stereotypes.
You should ask your audience about
Teenage
happy gay
girls
adults.
are binding their breasts, shooting up foreign hormones, and undergoing dangerous, invasive surgeries.
Also, this is just like all vague posturing. Yeah, transition-related care and healthcare is overwhelmingly safe. We went over it earlier, and it has overwhelmingly positive results. Link to my research doc in my Discord or below.
Many of these girls decide it's easier to move through the world seen as a boy rather than as a girl. And I don't blame them. Being a woman is not always fun. But the joy of sisterhood, of loving women, even as friends.
Lost Lesbian Sisters! She's unironically doing the Lost Lesbian Sisters bit!
Is something that no doctor can supply.
Oh my god,
We are losing an entire generation of sisters to this madness. That's why it's personal. It's infuriating, it's devastating, and I have had enough. I'm here because I care.
I've also had enough. Anyone who watches that, who would see how she talks about like trans guys versus trans women, can see that like she clearly thinks of like trans women as like these vicious, deceitful, lying, aggressive perpetrators of violence, right? And literally trans guys making the same kind of arguments and taking the same kind of actions in trans women, there's no culpability with them. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just poor, helpless, confused, lost lesbian sisters. Like with all TERFs, like they operate with two layers of bad logic. All guys are evil. Trans women are guys. Therefore, all trans women are evil. Like obviously, like that's bad logic, right? Yeah, she has nothing to be able to substantiate herself. It's all just vague posturing, and there's no actual substance to any of the arguments. End clip.